Welcome to the World of Art with Paul Crimi. Tonight I brought 4 pieces of art. I brought this beautiful painting I did for a friend of mine who passed away, who was very close to me. He was my lawyer and a very good friend and patron of my work. And I wanted to do something special, so this happens to be a pond in Maine, and looping on the pond with the reflection. I worked on this for about a week, and it had a lot of emotion. I've been offered some money for it, but I haven't taken any. I turned down $27,000 from a woman in New York. I wasn't ready to sell it. That's why I turned it down. But I wanted to bring something else too, because I don't want you to think that all I do is these ocean scenes and landscapes. I brought this beautiful print. And it's a print from my press. I have an American French press, 24 by 48. And it prints these beautiful prints. And then I hand paint them afterwards and go in and touch them up. And this one's called Becoming One. This is a kind of an abstract play with birth. You know, that it's going through this whole birthing thing with the world. Everybody wants to put these babies out and get rid of them. But so this is the male, this is the female, and it becomes one, and all of this stuff happens. I don't know, you know, I felt like as an artist, we should all make a statement of some kind. You know, I have a wife, 4 kids, and we had a tough time. I was a hairstylist and I was an artist. But because I was a hairstylist, I made enough to put my kids through college and help them get off, good start off. So that's why I brought this. I wanted people to see, hey, this is, if you came to my studio, you'd see a whole wall full of these beautiful prints and the colors and the abstractness of it. But it has a lot of emotional feelings, the colors and the movement and the energy. So art is just what you in yourself can do to get it out there. So I'm going to put this down and have this removed. And then I'm going to put another one up after the abstract. I'm going to put up this one, the coast of California. I took a photograph in the, I'd say, 2085 or 86. I went to visit my son in California, and I went to visit a friend in Northern California, and we drove all the way from Northern California down to LA along the coast. And I took a bunch of pictures, and I loved the effect that I saw with the black and white when I was there in California. So I did this painting, and it's one of my favorite paintings. I happen to love all of the fog and the movement in the water and the rocks. And I keep doing these black and white paintings because they're so moving for me as an artist. I'm a black and white printmaker, and then I hand color my prints. But so I love the black and white as it is. A lot of people got away from it as artists, and I just did this one. I've been working on this for 5 days. Started out as a little scribble, and then I started doing more and more and more. There's something about the power of black and white that intrigues me. So I've done a whole series of beautiful black and white paintings, and they're in the studio, and people come up and they say, wow, how did you do this? I says, it's like when you're a student at the museum school and you go to school every day for a couple of years, and back in I'd say I was like 14 when I first went to the museum school on Saturday. And I loved the school. My God, it took my breath away. And I'd go every Saturday, then I went all the way through high school, and then I got accepted. There was 125,000 students putting applications in. They only took 125 students. I was number 10. And here's a kid that couldn't read or couldn't write because he was deaf as a kid, and he gets accepted into the museum school, and he's number 10. And they loved my drawings and the paintings that I did. And so tonight I brought a photograph of the coast of Maine. Like I said, I get caught up in these coast pictures. And this one's got a little bit of a fog of feeling too. So I'm going to hold it up, and Carol's going to come in and show you this photograph. And then I'm going to set up the easel with the canvas. which I have a black canvas, which I paint on black canvases all the time. So you get a good idea of what this looks like, and then I'll put it on top of the easel and I'll start to paint it. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to set the easel up with the picture. I'm going to sit down and paint, and we're going to try and use the chair tonight so it makes it easier for the camera people, which are very talented people, so we shouldn't have any trouble here. And I'm getting some nice feedback from a lot of people about the show. They're sending me messages saying they really like it. All right, let me get everything organized here. I have a bit of a runny nose, so if I stop in the middle of a painting and start wiping my face, it's because I either have an allergy or a cold. My wife thinks I have a cold, but I don't think I have a cold, but she thinks I have a cold. You know, when you're married to somebody for 54 years, they're your doctor. They know everything, and I just agree with her. Because I've learned, you know, disagreeing with your wife is the food gets changed and everything happens that you don't want to happen. So I just say, yes, dear. My father taught me that. And if it gets out of hand, yes, dear, I'm going to the movies. That's how I get away from all of the friction and nonsense that goes on when you're married. I've been doing that for years. I've probably seen hundreds of movies in my life because of that, too. But we've always gotten along really well. So how we get started with this, I think I'll start with the sky. So let me get a brush that I like. It feels right here. I want to make the sky very light. I'm not going to try to make it too dark because I want the fog to come in. So, oh, you can't see any blue there. And so you just keep adding a touch and a touch until you find out what, it's going to work. Let me put my glasses on. I put them in my pocket while I was doing the talking. You know, you get to be 76 and the glasses become more important than they were when I was younger. I never wore glasses until I got into the 80s, the 70s, I'm sorry. My wife says, you've been needing glasses a lot longer than you think. But you know, wives have a lot to say. And mostly they're right. How do you stay married for 54 years? Yes, dear, whatever you say. And she's a great woman, and she's a great mother, and she's done a great job with the kids. I have 4 kids. Well, they're not kids, 4 adult children now. I have a daughter that's a magnificent artist, Paul Crimi Trent. Go on YouTube and watch her work. Her watercolors will take your breath away. She's excellent. Of course, I tortured her as a little girl. I made her do etchings with me, and she hated it because everything you do as an etching is backwards. And she just could not comprehend in her kid's way or whatever way you want to call it. But boy, can she paint and draw. She got a 4-year scholarship to Pratt in New York, and I hired a photographer to photograph her stuff. In those days, you had to do slides. And that was the best thing I could have done because the dean called me, or somebody called me from the college and said, we loved what your daughter put in her portfolio. She didn't put anything, and she was going to be a fabric designer or fabric something. And none of it stuff in the portfolio was or anything to do with fabric design or clothes design. It was all art, all different kinds of art, printmaking, sculpture, painting, all the things that I did at the museum school. I said, you know, you don't know what they're looking for. So let's cover the bases. We'll do a little bit of everything, and then we'll know what they like, and what they like is going to do something for you. And when I told her she got a scholarship, she was thrilled. All right, so I've got the sky here, so I'm not going to put all this green in. I'm going to do some of this coastly stuff. So let me get some of the black down. And so I should probably go a little lower. I hate putting stuff in the middle. I think I'll go a little lower at the sky. There you go. That's a little better. And don't be afraid to change things if you're going along. Painting is changing constantly. You're constantly changing, constantly adjusting. That's what makes you a great painter. You know, most artists, they get so stubborn. My daughter, for years, now she's 52 years old now, right? And I have been telling her for years and years to use black canvases. And she just, hey, that's not the way I was taught in college. Who cares? I'm your father. You listen to me. That's a joke. Anyways, I hear her on the one of the Instagram. Yeah, my father's been telling me for years and years and years to use black canvases, so I started using black canvases. And he's absolutely right. He says the color jumps off the canvas. Yeah, okay. All right, so I went down a little lower. That's a lot better. Let me get this cleaned up a little more. Okay, so I'm going to tell you something. You see what I'm doing with this brush? I'm cleaning it off. Make sure you have a big bucket of water and make sure you really shake the brush up inside the water. It cleans up the brush so that you don't have any backlash when you're changing the colors. So you want the colors to do what you want them to do, not what a brush wants them to do. All right, so we got this a little darker here. So I touched the black, put a little, I'm using gesso in white paint, using black, and I got this brush. I can't tell you the size of it, but I think it's about an 8 because it's all worn out. Everything I have is all worn out. My stuff gets used. Oh, by the way, I've got a person in Germany that's going to put paintbrushes out with my name, and we've been friends for years now, and she's done my website, Paul Crimi Fine Arts. Paul Crimi Museum Fine Arts. And I have another website too, and it's paulcrimi@gmail.com. Oh, that's my website. I have to think about all of this stuff. It's too much going on in my brain. The other website is paul-crimi- the one in Germany, museum.com. And the one that I have around here is, the one in Germany, she has to do it in English. That's been the problem with the site. A lot of people think that I'm from Germany because it's all in German. But she's done a magnificent job with the website. You say to me, why do you have a black canvas and you're painting everything white? Well, everything bleeds through. That's why I'm doing it like this. All right. I don't mind sitting down because I'm working at Home Depot and I was helping somebody, and I'm a little too old to be moving 80-pound bags of concrete. And this person was small. I'd say he was about 4'2", and his wife was probably 5'7", and they had a little infant, and she came into the store and said, will you help my husband? They put a bag of concrete in a cart and he can't get it out. He can't even reach in because he's so small. And I should have gone and gotten a teenager to do that, but I was standing there and I looked around and I couldn't find anybody to help. So I said, oh gosh, I'll just stick it in the... When I pulled my back, and I spent the last 5 or 6 weeks with a lot of pain in my back. I had to go to the VA and get some of those patches you put on your back. Oh, Oh, don't even want to go there. All right, I'm going to rinse this out. So as I showed you the photograph, we have this tall tree in the center. So I'm going to put it off to the center. I'm going to put this trees in, and then I'm going to do the rocks. And I don't want to go so fast that you don't appreciate it. I'm doing everything by steps. So what I've got is my blower here. I find after all these years, I don't like to wait. A lot of people can't stand painting with acrylics. They say it dries too fast. It doesn't dry fast enough for me because I use layer after layer after layer of color. And I keep going over it and over it and over it. And I do it very thinly so that I can dry it like this, and then I build it up. And I find that that works for me. Now, there's other people out there who have different opinions. They do what they do. And I don't make fun of them, and I don't care what they make fun of me or not. I just have a way of doing something that I do, and I do it all the time. And I've been doing this since the blowers came out. In fact, I was a hairdresser before blowers came out. That was a job I did for 45 years. I had two shops, and I worked for a bunch of different people at the end of my career as an owner, because it got too difficult trying to have 20 people work for you and get things done. So all I have left over is my wife and my sister-in-law and a couple of friends and my kids that come to me and get a haircut. So let's do the green thing now. So I'm going to just, I'm using green and I'm putting a touch of black in this because I want it to be dark like this. So it's going to be a little darker. Yeah, nice. And I'm not putting any detail in. I'm just going to dab it up, and then I'll go over it and over it a couple of times until I get it where I want it. And don't get discouraged. You know, you see, it doesn't look like anything, but it will. You can't make it look like something from the beginning. You got to build it up. Step one, step two, and all of a sudden you'll get there. I got this big fat brush to do this. So I'm dabbing it in the black, dabbing it in the green. I'm trying to get this darkness because of the fog. And I'm going to go over this a whole bunch of times, so don't think I'm going to leave it the way it is. Get rid of this brush, go to another one. Something more pointy. All right, I'm going to pull this table a bit closer. Don't strain my back reaching over. You know, I picked this photograph because I felt like it almost feels like a black and white painting. And I said, oh God, I'm getting a little help from above here. I'm going to keep mixing this up until it gets darker and darker and darker. And I'm not doing any detail. I'm just, what would I call this back in the old days? If I'm doing a demonstration, I'd say that it's no detail. I'm just duffing it up and trying to get it built up so that when I'm ready, it'll start to show up. And it's going to start to show up in a few minutes. So you see, you just keep putting layers and layers on top, and all of a sudden it'll start to come to life. You be patient with yourself. When I teach people how to do painting and stuff, when I do private lessons, and I have had a whole bunch of young people throughout the years, and friends of mine that I went to school with, their grandkids come to me and they say, oh my God, we want you to teach our grandkids. They want to go to art school. And I'm not the kind of guy who would say to them, no, I'm not, I'm too busy, I have to do too much, I got the beauty parlors, I got this, I got that, then I'm going to start doing. I'd always say yes. My wife says, you never learned how to say no to anybody, Paul. And I says, well, I think that's probably right. But the kids that I've taught and adults and the people that I've taught throughout the years, I find them sincere and loving and caring, and it worked out really nice, so I like doing it. But I wouldn't be an art teacher in a school, no. Although I've done a lot of high schools as an artist in residence. I did a lot in Hanover, and I did a lot in Rockland, and I did a lot in Quincy. All right, let's do some of the beach here. So it's low tide, so this is making the sand a little darker than it would be. Going back to my bigger brush. My bigger brush, sounds like an Italian. A bigger brush. So you just take your time. Don't be in a hurry. Don't get panicky. Just keep putting the color on the canvas. I'm going to take a look at this photograph. I want to put it down here. It's way up there, and it's hard to see with these lights. I'm working with this light situation in here. This is a little darker in this area, so I'm going to put a little more black in it. I'm not doing any detail. All I'm doing is I'm getting this canvas ready, and then all of a sudden I'll start to tell you, now I'll do some detail. I'll start to make the things in the painting come to life in a few minutes. And you know, I'm scrubbing the canvas with the brush, back and forth, back and forth. No lines, no marks, just go back and forth very gently. It has, the tide is out, so it has some of that beautiful, soft, wet sand right in this area right here that I'm going back over. That's a little darker, and then I'm going to put the rocks on, and then I'll work on the trees, and then you'll start to see this thing come to life. Hopefully it'll come to life quickly. But I don't know how much time we have here, and I'm sitting here enjoying this. This is going to be one of my favorite paintings that I've done this show, because I feel like this is starting to have some real nice touch. Well, since I hurt my back and I've been sitting down, I've gotten a little more comfortable with this sitting while you're painting kind of thing. So there's a big white rock right along in here in the photo. So I'm going to put that white rock in. I'm putting it in with gesso. And gesso is a base on the canvas. Nice. The water area is a little lighter than I had it, so I'm going to go back and touch up the water area again. Right here. Just be kind, gentle, soft. Bring it across, bring some strokes in here. Nice. I think some of these rocks go back in the background too. So back up here, put a few rocks in back there. Look closely at the photo. So it gives it a nice depth of field, like a photograph. You know, I have this mentality from being involved with photography as an artist. I took this photograph. I've taken thousands and thousands of photographs of Maine, and always thrilled to see the way they come out. And it helps when it comes to the painting. I look at the photograph and it starts to come back into my head of what was going on in that particular photo. The fog and the atmosphere and the grass by the front of this is a little yellower. It's not as quite covered in the fog like back there. I'm going to go over all of this, but I'm building it up. Beautiful. Now I know it's half an hour, so now I can really start to paint. I've been holding back because I didn't want to get too wild in this thing. So this area right here, I'm going to do this area right here, and then I'm going to work my way up, and you'll see it come to life. I'm going to put this picture back up there so you can see it right here, I hope. I'm going to get rid of this towel and get another one. So I get a little excited and I might stand a little, so I hope these people will be ready for that. We'll see. All right, let's do this beach. So I did the white, now I'm going to do the dark. I'm going to do the real dark right in this section right here. Even darker. Nice. Because I'm going to throw in some white And I'm going to dry this whole thing down, and then you'll see the beautiful difference is what I'm trying to show you. All right, I'm going to go to a smaller brush now. I'm going to put some of the smaller rocks in. And do yourself a favor. Buy a ton of brushes. Just don't be stingy. Spend money. Don't be one of these people that don't want to spend a lot of money on their artwork because they're not that experienced. The more money you spend on your stuff, the better it will come out. So I'm going to put these rocks in. Just touch the canvas very gently. You put them in, and some of them get lighter and some of them get darker and some of them will get whiter. This whole spot has a whole bunch of rocks, so I'm going to put them all in. And these tiny rocks make the bigger rocks jump, make them come to life. In fact, I should dry some of this. Touched up that big rock a little, made it look a little more. Just keep touching the canvas with them and the rocks will jump off at you. I might have to get up and go get some black. I'm going to go get some black. I'll be right back. Right here. All right, I got the black. I'm back. Ah, nice. There's a whole bunch of little black rocks in this area right here. I'm going to put them in. That's why I had to go get some black. And how you do that is you just go like this. Touch the canvas, move it up and down sometimes. There's a whole bunch of them back here. Maine is rock heaven. If you like rocks, zillion rocks. I've had paintings where the whole entire painting is done with the rocks. Amazing, amazing. And I love painting rocks. And people say, how do you get those rocks to look so real? Even the artist friends of mine, they get a little crazy with me when they say, oh my God, Paul, I love what you do with the rocks. And I said, it's easy. You just put the paint on the canvas. You know, if you have an attitude about stuff, it comes out in the work. You know, be positive, you know. Speak it and believe it and do it. Those are things, it says it in the Bible. What you say is what you do, and what you say, it becomes what you are. And, I mean, people say, oh, I can't do this, or I can't do that. Well, as soon as you say that, or I never win, I never win. My brother Vinny always said, ever since he was a little kid, and he was a year older than me, always said that he was going to hit the lottery and make a lot of money. He hit it 3 times, and he made millions. I've never met a person that was luckier than my brother Vinny when it came to the lottery and attitude about it. I mean, I once hit the lottery. I was sitting at Bickford's having breakfast. I had a scratch ticket for $5. For some reason, I bought this crazy ticket, and I scratched it, and oh my God, $10,000. Talk about having a great breakfast. Good Lord. That's the only time I've won the lottery, and I haven't been one of these guys that gambles on the lottery a lot. I sometimes think that sometimes the more money you get from stuff like that, the more headaches you have. You know, I've seen what my brother Vinny went through with all of the money he made. You know, and God love him. And you know, the more money they make doesn't keep you here. He was 71 on his birthday, and he passed from Alzheimer's, you know, and he got Alzheimer's in his 50s, late 50s. And I'll tell you a funny story. I started bringing him communion at a nursing home in Marshfield, and I was a Eucharistic minister. I still am at St. Mary's Church in Hanover, and it was just him. And then all of a sudden, well, did you bring any for me? Did you bring any for me? Did you bring... all these people got in line. And I felt really bad. And so instead of just Vinny, there wound up being like 40 or 50 people getting communion every Sunday for like 7 years while he was in the nursing home. So you never know why you're picked to do something, and it's always something that you don't want to do with your own family. But I loved my brother Vinny. We were so close. We're only a year apart. My brother Joey and I are a year apart. And now my sister has Alzheimer's, and she's 3 years younger. Joey's a year younger, and my sister's 2 years younger. And so I'm 76, Joey's 75, and Ian's 74, and Michael would have been 73. And Vinny would have been 77. 6 years now. So we're starting to show up. This painting is starting to take shape. I'm going to start doing the detail now. And my son, who's a salesman, he has his own company, and he says to me, Dad, do these paintings on TV and tell them, hey, listen, if anybody's interested, the demonstration is only like $250 if somebody wants to buy it. Other than that, if I do it in my studio, it would be $1,700 or $2,400, whatever size canvas I'm using and how much time I put into it. So if you think you're interested in one of these demos, just come to the studio and I'll pull out a few. Most of the time, what I do with them is I donate them to worthy causes like a church auction or something like that, or one of my prints on paper. And I have a studio at 1000 Main Street in Hanson, right down from the train station. And if there's a sign on the sidewalk and you look at it when you go by, that means I'm in the building and I'm upstairs painting. And you can come by anytime you'd like and go through the building, because it's covered with art. There's like 350 paintings. A friend of mine came by recently and said, it's not an art studio, it's a gallery. And I says, well, no, I didn't do it as a gallery, but I kept putting up stuff, and all of a sudden it became a gallery. But I'm one of those kind of artists, I know if you came by, I'd talk to you. A lot of people don't talk to you. I was out painting with a bunch of my friends in my lifetime, and they would get so uptight if somebody come up and asked them a question while they were painting. Get out of here, I'm painting. Can't you see I'm doing something? That kind of stuff. I was a hairstylist, and I didn't have that kind of attitude. I would talk to everybody, and my friend says, see, you talk to all these people, you get nothing done, Paul. I said, yeah, getting something done is not as important as being polite. Yeah. So I'm going to lighten this up a little over here with the fog. Just a tiny bit. This painting is starting to take shape. I like it. I think it's going to be nice. So I'm going back, and I'm going back on this tree, and I'm doing it to more look like the flower, the painting. So if you're new at painting and you want to paint, you can go online and watch the show, The World of Art, with Paul Crimi, and get some of the feedback from some of the shows, or you can continually come on and watch this show in the times that we're doing and get an idea of what we're doing here. And all of a sudden, this painting will start to jump into shape in the next few minutes. That tree's already a million times better. And what you got to do is build it up, keep going over it and over it and over it, and go over the rocks and go over the sand. I bought this blower at Walmart for $18. For 20 years, I used a blower that I used in my hairdressing business that I paid $350. But the trouble with the blower wasn't that it didn't last. The trouble with me is I was always dropping it. I dropped this thing a couple of times already. And that's why I don't mind spending $19 for a blower that's really hot like this one gets. Oh, the other one was extremely hot. Oh, customers were always complaining to me that I was too hot. And I'd say to the customers, I gotta get to the next person. They're sitting out there waiting. I cut your hair very slowly, but I'm gonna dry your hair a lot faster. Oh, I was a joy, I'll tell you. But I was always polite. Okay, I'm going back to the bigger brush. I'm going to go over the water. 15 minutes. We're doing good. All right, so I'm going to start doing some of the details so we have to get this done. This is the whitest rock because it's the closest. These have a little tan stuff on them, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep them the way I want them to be, looking like this. So I'm going to just keep them like they are. So I'm giving it the sand and the water that kind of, like the tide has just gone out and it's just a little lighter than normal. So it's swept away, yeah, like that. See how it's softened it up now, even the black rocks? Ed Harrigan was an artist in Rockland, and you know, fantastic. I loved the way he did water. Oh my God. So I'm like 28, 29 years old. I've been to the museum school. I've done all of that stuff, and I had the beauty parlor, and I went back to college when I was in my 30s under the GI Bill, and all that stuff. But I still wanted to learn how to do water and do the beach. So I went to his class, and I said, I want to take your class. He said, okay. He didn't know me, who I was or what I was doing. And so I started taking his class, and about 3 weeks into the class, he walked up to me and gave me my money back. And I said, what's the matter? Did I offend you? He says, no, you intrigued me and you excited me because I could see that you have more talent than this class can offer you. And I don't want you to be offended by this, but you know, you don't need this class. I could see right away that you knew what you were doing. And I said, well, I come to take your class because I wanted to learn how to do the water like you. He could paint water. And if you came to my studio and you walked around and you'd see the water paintings that I do or the ocean paintings, it's because of Ed. It was because he was kind enough to let me join the class, and then he found out that I was an artist. I never told him I was an artist. And we became lifelong friends, and he helped me, and then I became friends with Michael Keane and Mike Miccarelli, Clements Miccarelli, and Sam Evans. All of them have gone. They're all passed, and they're all magnificent artists, and they're all good friends. Make friends with other artists. Start to understand other things. Don't just depend on a few people. Depend on a lot of people. I studied with this woman, Sibley, in Cohasset, and she did the most incredible clouds. And because I studied with her for 3 years, that's all I did was paint clouds. Oh, and every time I painted one, somebody bought it. And to this day, I still do a lot with the clouds. No. I don't want green in the sky over here. Let me get rid of that. I'm putting in fog. And you'll see it to come in, and it's going to get better and better and better. You know, I don't care if I don't finish this painting, but I want you to see how it's done. And you know, you just keep putting the texture on top of the color. And it starts to, you start to see like and feel like it has fog. And you can go over this and over this and over this. Go that way, go this way, go right across. Good. So now I'm going to get real serious. I'm going to get really fast. Some of the paint got contaminated with green. Don't let that bother you. Never let anything bother you when you're painting, because you got the paint You got the brush. Just go right over it. So tonight we had this beautiful coast picture, the waters and the rocks and the beach, the trees with the fog. I sat down here in this chair. It's a piece of paper. Oops, I dropped it. I got that green up. Let me get that. I'm not going to hurry this thing. I'm going to take my time on it. And because I'm trying to do a little more than I should be trying to do, I got a little green in here, so I'll just go over it. Bring the fog in. What fog is a cloud that comes down to earth. You know, when it's foggy, I get all excited because I feel like I'm walking in the clouds. And we've had some fog lately, and it's beautiful. A lot of people can't stand it because they want to go to work and they want to be there fast, but the fog does add a lot of dimension to your life and a lot of dimension to the work. So you get an idea how the fog gets in there, see? You just take your time, go over it very slowly. Let me dry this a little, and then I'm almost done. And I'll stand up and talk about it. In fact, I've got to stand up because my chair is a little hard on my backbone back there. All right, so I'm going to close. I don't know, we got 4 or 5 minutes, so I'm going to close. I'm going to spend some time talking about the rest of this painting. It has the elements of the photograph. It has the feeling that you're standing on the beach and you're present in the painting. That, to me, is the most important part of what I do as an artist. I want you to look at my work, stand in front of it, and say, I feel like I'm standing right there. I can almost feel like I could walk down the beach. That's what an artist does. I'm not trying to do these photographs with paintings like a photograph. I want you to feel the elements and the feeling of it. And that's what an artist is supposed to do. He's supposed to make you feel intrigued. I love the Impressionist. I could paint realism like a photograph. I've done a bunch of them in my life, but I've never been thrilled by them. I've been more thrilled by the Impressionist paintings. And you start to see the foggy sky here and the strong tree and these beautiful rocks. It speaks to me and it'll speak to you. If you learn how to paint and you look at what you're doing and if you go out and photograph, start with objects in the house. See, if you go, okay, I got 5 minutes. I can go back and do a little more. Oh, let me do a little more. See, what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll do some more of that fog on the top with the white, not the gesso. The gesso's a little thick. I got this little Japanese brush or Oriental brush or whatever they call themselves these days. I'm from an old school, so I always use that word. And my daughter-in-law is half Japanese and half Australian, and she's not offended by me saying that. She says, my family says that, Paul, so don't let it get you upset. But my wife corrects me all the time, you know. They love if you're correcting their husbands. And some of them need to be corrected, to tell you the truth. So you just keep dabbing the surface with a little bit of authority and attitude, and it changes the whole sky a lot, and it changes the color in here. Put some of the water in again. The watermarks, the tide's just gone out. Painting is a joy. It's a peaceful thing. It gives you a way of expressing who you are, what you want to do in your life, how you feel about yourself. Don't get frustrated by it. You know, if it doesn't work, paint it black. Start again. I mean, you could paint the same canvas 10 times. If you ever looked at some of the work I did when I was a youngster, I must have painted the canvas 10 times till I got it what I wanted. And then I would bring it to the teacher and, my God, Paul, how did you get this painting built up like this? Oh, I worked on it for a while. I never told him I painted it 10 times. But you know, you learn every time you do a painting and every time you do something like this, you learn something, you experience it, and you take it to the next painting. I think this is a really cute painting. It has a nice feeling. I still think I can make the trees a little less green by going over it. I didn't want to kill them. That's what I say when I overdo a painting. I've killed it. I have to bring it back to life. So I try to step up, step away from it, and sit down in my chair and look at it across the room and judge my steps. I didn't do that today. Most of the time I would have got up from the chair, walked over here, stood back, looked at it, gone and sat down and said, fix this, fix that. But I'm trying to do with the chair what they do with the cameras. But in my studio, I'll put this on the easel and I'll go across the room and sit on the other side of the room and I'll look at it and I'll judge where I am at it. So that's what you have to do. And go out and buy a reducing mirror. It pushes the painting back. It helps you do the perspective. I had one, but I gave it to an artist who was having a tough time with making the canvas go back a little. And one of these days I'll buy another one if I can find one. I want to thank you. God bless. Good night. Turn on The World of Art with Paul Crimi. Go on YouTube. Make a comment. We'd love to hear from you. God bless and good night.